Probably the only thing I need.
I'm so proud to be here. Well, honor your time. Let's,
Pick up that Madonna.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful.
They want an
State of
audience.
Union.
Oh, that's bad. Unless I stay in the whole meeting. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll call the March 1st Sumner County Board of Education study session in session. Let's have a moment of silence, and if you'll join me, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let me first say, whoa, that's loud. My voice is already loud, cheerleader voice. Let me first say that this is Teacher Appreciation Week. And so shout out to our Sumner County educators. We are so blessed to have the most phenomenal educators in this county. And so in any form or fashion that you can reach out, your social media, I'm taking things to the school. I'll be visiting schools, taking little happies to the teachers. Thank a teacher. Really, that's just all. They work tirelessly. Thank them for loving on your children and in educating them. Also, this is Read Across America. Tomorrow is Dr. Seuss's birthday. So the kindergarten teacher in me really wants to read the book to you and put my hat on. So I'm going to be going to Nanny Berry and reading Dr. Seuss books. I mean, who doesn't love Dr. Seuss? So tomorrow is his birthday. And so happy birthday, Dr. Seuss. And we're just grateful that we have educators in this county that teach our children to read. Read so that they can learn every other subject. Reading, reading, reading. We are missing a few of our school board members tonight. Andy Daniels is at the Beta Club. His son is being inducted into Beta Club. And then Betsy is picking up family at the airport. I believe this is the new grandbaby that's part of this. It's really about the grandbaby. And we're going to continue to pray for Ted. Please do. Tim Brewer is at Wheel of Fortune with his daughter, Robin. So we're excited to hear about that adventure when Tim gets back. So we miss him. Tonight, we're blessed to have a presentation by Jimmy Johnston with Ford Sumner. And I believe we're going to have this on our screen for us to see. And we also have a handout here. And Chase is here to cheer on Jimmy, is what he said. So we appreciate it. Mr. Johnson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hayes. It's my great pleasure to be here with you tonight. Appreciate the opportunity. I'm just gonna jump right in. I thought we'd just kind of go through what Ford Sumner is about, and then at the last part, I'd like to focus on our workforce development program and particularly the direct work that we do with the schools, although schools are important to everything we do every day. So Ford Sumner, countywide, same territory as yours. This is just a picture of the county. So we're very unique in this county, particularly when you talk about economic development. We have 7 cities, but we share 4 cities with another county. Jeff is Goodlettsville, that's Davidson County, and then you go up 65, you were talking about Millersville, White House, and Portland. Portland's 98%, 99% Sumner, but their industrial properties are very much located in the Robeson County side. So, for Sumner, we have a pretty easy mission, which is to unite business, community, and government to promote and foster the economic development and prosperity of Sumner County for the benefit of all citizens. Unite business, community, and government. You know, some days it's a little bit harder than others. We do have core values and true believers in these, and I do believe we example these. We are relationship based, we are collaborative, we're county focused, we're strategic, and we're outward facing. What we are is a public-private, not-for-profit. So, which our main focus is working on infrastructure improvements, job creation, workforce development, and economic opportunities throughout the county. One of the things we've been successful with is that we're the one voice that doesn't break down by city boundaries, and we'll talk some more examples about that. Economic Development 101 requires land and buildings, access for roads, utilities. These days, obviously, broadband is in that list. Capital, money, and then workforce, which we'll talk a lot about. We have 5 strategic initiatives in Fort Sumner, but these are 3 that we're going to talk about tonight. As you see, economic development, community development, infrastructure, and workforce. The other 2 are operations inside just the operations of Fort Sumner, and then we have something called stakeholder initiatives, stakeholder investor and stakeholder relations, in that we're public-private, so we raise money from both sectors to fund our operations. I want to start with economic development. As I start with economic development, I want to point out, whenever I have the pleasure and honor to introduce Dr. Phillips, and he in fact has done this kind of presentation for me, so I'm paying my dues here to be back in front of the school board. But you are responsible for the largest workforce, the largest budget. You're the largest property management company. You're the largest food services company. You operate the only public transportation system in the county. And oh, by the way, you educate 30,000 students too. But it's a massive business undertaking, and generally your complaints are about a school bus not arriving on time, or but they're all very serious. But I honor the great task that you have, and appreciate what you're doing, particularly the elected officials. So again, back to Fort Sumner, business advocates working with local governments and the local economic development officials for this capital investment, job growth, and job creation, and economic growth. Some recent noteworthy projects I'll run through pretty quick. Sumner County Ice Rink, Goat Farm, Music City Studios, Meta, Facebook, Meta, company formerly known as Facebook, Data Center Campus, and then the Comer Barn. This picture shows you the Sumner County Ice Rink. It's a 74-acre multi-use development. Just last night, the final step in the tax increment financing agreement was done at the County Commission. It's a tri-party agreement between Sumner County, the city of Hendersonville, and the city of Gallatin. It's quite unique. It's a $40 million tax increment financing over 30 years. What that means is that the ice rink is about $30 million plus, and that's the public use facility that you build the infrastructure to begin with, and that's the commercial draw that will bring the other pieces in with it, whether that's restaurants, whether that's hotel, motel. We don't know, but that's part of the 74 acres. It could be office, it could be other sports. The tax increment financing means that current property taxes that are there, you continue to pay those. The increment, when you build a hotel, motel tax, the property will be assessed at a different rate. That increment is allowed on the property tax to go back to the financing of this TIF. So that's when that's paid off. And we've had one other in the county, and it was very successful, and it was also a 30-year, and it was paid off in 13 or 14 years during a Great Recession. So hopefully this one will track that. And once the TIF goes away, then it's full taxes Last night at the county commission, there was some discussion or confusion. I don't know if it's so much confusion, trying to make some confusion, but just to understand that you still receive sales tax, you still receive personal property tax, and you still receive the hotel motel tax. So it's just the property tax or the incremental property tax. With this development came 3 acres of, I think it was right at 3 acres for the Jack Anderson campus, because the uniqueness of this project is there's a local person that is writing the check to finance this $40 million. They are just writing the check for the ice rink. And so when you did this deal at the county commission and at city levels, there's no full faith and credit of the money from those local governments that is behind this project. So it's very, very limited risk. If it were to go bad, it comes back to the financer. It's not on the government. It won't go bad. It'll be massive. The predators are behind this. Predators will manage it and operate it. So it's very exciting. It's going to be a great project, and I appreciate Chairman Langford was steered the ship through last night and was very helpful. So always I don't know how he does it, but I appreciate it. Music City Studios, you might have seen this in the news. It's in Hendersonville. It's a very exciting project. It's 800,000 square feet, 4 buildings. It's will be at least $100 million investment. I heard a good description, and I'll give Mayor Clary credit for this. Think of it as a shopping mall for film, music, and gaming. About half of this space will be for production, for studio. It could be rehearsal, it could be filming. And then the other half is for the creatives. So it'll be the people that are actually creating the content. The developers of this, there's a local young man in Nashville is the managing partner, which is good because they're going to be local. He's got a partner out of Los Angeles, he's got a partner out of South Carolina. They've studied this quite a bit. They don't believe it's ever been done in the world. Their plans is for this to be the first one. They're already citing the second one. So they're very excited about it, but there's a real strong education element to this too, because they envision this campus as being one where they believe what has not happened in this industry is film lives in its own silo, music lives in its own silo, and gaming lives in its own silo. They believe there's crossover technology and crossover talent and skills to do that, and that's what they're going to try to prove here. So, very exciting project. We'll talk a little bit more about what we'd like to do with with your career and technical education students. Facebook Meta under construction, finishing up the first building. Second building is being sited. Now it just got approved. So this shows 4 buildings. So this is more of a 10-year build out here. Again, using 800 acres, $100 billion. Exciting. Not a whole lot of jobs attached to this, but this is the world. It's going to be full of data centers. Great tax base for the county and for the city of Gallatin. I want to mention the Comer Barn because I really appreciate what the school board has done. That project was looked for a home for a while. We give a lot of credit to County Commissioner DeWitt, who took it on as a passion of hers, and we worked with her to get a planning group or a planning session together. We did it using the development district in Nashville, and they came up, and I believe out of that planning group came this one. They had several ideas, but one of the ideas was this, and so the opportunity to be able to implement this to make it a agriculture and technology center in the plans that you already have is very, very exciting. That's going to be it. And by the way, that's across the street from the new ice rink too. So it's a great fit. Would like to mention Rogers Group and the partnership with them. Rogers Group is on the board of directors of Fort Sumner. Has been a supporter of ours for a long time. So appreciate what they do for the community. Community development infrastructure, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about that. This is where we focus on our transportation corridors, our road work. So we're the public-private office that coordinates the infrastructure improvements to the Sumner County transportation corridors. What does that mean? Well, this is how we do it first. We have a community development and infrastructure committee. On that committee is the county mayor, along with the mayors and/or city managers of the 7 cities. And then we have a few forts under investors. Rogers Group is on this group. We get together quarterly or as needed. What we have strived to do, and we've been doing this about 7 or 8 years now, we developed a consensus relative to the Sumner County transportation corridors. That's a pretty easy sentence, but in reality what that meant is some 7 or 8 years ago, we got a commitment out of the Tennessee Department of Transportation to finish State Route 109 from I-65 to I-40, 840. At that point, it was under Governor Haslam. They committed to doing it finish it during their term. They got close. They got within a year, and we ran into some utility relocation issues, and without that, they would have made it. But when they made that commitment to us, we were able to take that lift off the board. And so in this room, we said, okay, what is it if we're 25 years in the future, we reach back and what can we ask for? And it took about 8 or 9 months to come up with that consensus, because 7 cities and the county have different ideas. So I'd point you to, when we were focused on 109, Hendersonville's voice was just as strong in that room when it was 109. Even though it really didn't affect them. So what we settled on was, and I'll talk some detail in a minute, we settled on State Route 386 or Vietnam Veterans Boulevard. And when you think about it, Portland, Westmoreland, White House, even Millersville, not going to be as directly impacted on 386. But that's been part of our secret sauce, is to keep that unity, that collaboration, and that united voice. So we've now been to 2 TDOT commissioners. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do a third one because they've got an interim right now. The latest TDOT commissioner is gone to West Tennessee to build the Blue Oval City, which is the Ford Motor Plant. So he would have preferred to stay at TDOT, but it was made an offer he couldn't refuse. So back to the consensus, how we do this. In a room, come up with a united voice, and then we take that to Nashville to a group called a Metropolitan Planning Organization. That's the federal piece. You got to get it in the federal plan so that you get dollars committed to it. Then you take it to TDOT. TDOT's the ones that ends up building it. So the details on what the 386 project looks like. When we took it to them as a quarter concept. And they told us, the leadership at TDOT told us, name it. We named it the Northeast Transportation Corridor because we found a study, 2011 study, that was called the Northeast Transportation Corridor. That very much was about 386, was also Nashville piece to it. It was Ellington Parkway and Dickerson Pike, so we just took the Sumner County side. But it was able to attach the attention of the MPO that had done the original study. So right now on the books, what we have, phase 1 and 2, we have a $512 million commitment from the Tennessee Department of Transportation from beginning of Vietnam Veterans Boulevard in Goodlettsville, I-65, to connecting to State Route 109 in Gallatin, essentially about 15 miles. We have, what we'll get out of that is another general purpose lane, 6 lanes total. We had asked for a managed transit lane. What does that mean? We purposely used that term because no one knew what managed transit lanes meant. It's a federal designation. It was back in the time when Nashville was pushing for the transit, so it was part of that discussion. But it was very important because it opened up access to some other federal dollars. What that's come out in the study that they did, we asked for it to be flexible and adaptable. What we didn't want was to put rail in there to take over real estate that's would lock in that real estate for 50 years, particularly as you think about how the transportation world is changing. You know, we envision automated cars, but even if you don't go to automated, you're still talking about digital control of traffic. So that was our thought, to just make it flexible and adaptable. So what they came out with right now is wide shoulders, 4 bus on shoulders. The reason bus on shoulders because that's the only transit that's allowed right now through the state. And by the way, this is the first road project ever in the history of TDOT that includes a transit component. They really got invested in this because they knew that day was coming, and so they wanted to. This was kind of a test for them. Not always been easy sled inside the department. There's different departments that deal with the different pieces, but anyway, great relationship with them. The 2 managed transit lanes, so now you're up to 8 lanes, and then an interesting part of this project is that when you think about your merging lanes, particularly from exit 3 at 31 to exit 8, which is Saundersville Road, that's phase 1. You've got merging lanes there that don't extend all the way between the exits. They call them safety lanes, auxiliary lanes. Those will be built out between the exits. So essentially, from exit 3 to exit 8, you're going to have five lanes, 4 general purpose lanes in essence, and then with your bus on shoulders. Still can't manage your way out of congestion, so don't mishear me on that. And then we're going to have the inside shoulder will be designed for another additional managed transit lane. So it won't be built, but it'll be the right of way will allow you to come in and do that. So. And that's, by the way, well, the first 10 miles, phase 1, is actually in state law. That's in the Approved Act of 2016. So no matter what happens, that's going to get built. State of Tennessee, how long does it take to get built? Phase 1 is supposed to go into construction on 2024 under an alternative build construction contract. In the state of Tennessee, we cash flow our road projects. We don't take on road debt. That's a really cool thing. We're one of 5 states in the country that does that. But it also slows us down because it means you can only build the roads when the cash is available. And as much as we try, we're not the only project in the state of Tennessee. We're one of the most visible. And by the way, this was the single largest project in the Approved Act in 2016. One more cool story about road projects. So last year, at my office, we had a small group meeting between senior TDOT officials, county mayor, Gallatin mayor, an influential state senator who happens to live in Gallatin. And we were asking, because right now 386 ends at a stoplight, and that becomes Long Hollow Pike. And there's about a mile, 1.2, 1.4 from the exit 14, 1.1 from where 386 technically runs out, up to 109. So what we asked TDOT for, through the senator's voice, could TDOT do a feasibility study to put something on paper that says, hey, if you develop here, just know this is potentially what could happen in the future. They did that, agreed to it, did it, finished it. Governor Lee went and made his State of the State address a couple weeks ago. In that, he proposed $600 million in one-time revenue for new highway improvements. Of that $600 million, there's a subset of $230 million, and it's called State Highway Improvement Projects. On that list, I think there's 7 or 8 projects on that list. This feasibility study came out on that list at $76 million, which is $35 million more than any other project on that list. And it's hard to explain, but that's not how roads get done. You don't have a feasibility study done and then 12 months later the governor say, oh, here's $76 million. But it very much is the work of the collaboration, the work of the cities, because as I mentioned, the working on our third TDOT commissioner, when we went back into this last TDOT commissioner about a year and a half ago, we had 4 new mayors on our side of the table too. So it's not just, you know, the state, but we have to build the collaboration ourselves. So, by the way, the governor's budget is under consideration, hadn't been passed, so we can't spend that $76 million yet, but we feel good about it. What are the transportation corridors we're talking about? As I mentioned, 386 Vietnam Veterans Boulevard, State Route 109, which I've mentioned, I-65 to I-40, 840 in Wilson County, Lebanon. Portland, there's a Portland bypass still to be done. It's under right-of-way acquisition right now, 7 miles. That's north of Portland. The new exit will take you down to Highway 52, and then the southern section will take you down to where 109 is finished, a 4-lane divided highway, and just south of the city of Portland. That's worth, as you see, $146 million. I-65, 4 segments under contract. I will tell you that when we were in that room some years ago, we made a conscious decision not to spend any political capital on I-65. Nothing against Goodlettsville, Jeff, but we knew they were going to do that. I mean, they had to do that. And sure enough, it's under contract. All 4 segments are. They're in construction right now on segment 4. It was the worst road condition, so they started. That's essentially a stretch of 9 miles from Cottontown up to Portland.
We pushed that for you so you wouldn't have to.
Thank you. But I will tell you the unintended consequences of economic development growth, you know, road construction. Right now, the White House city manager was telling me the other day, matter of fact, I saw it on one of the channels, I think it was Channel 5. So now the trucks are getting off and getting on 31W and coming down and creating nightmares in White House. So this unified voice sometimes has its challenges too as we move forward. So in essence, those are your freight and goods movement corridors for Sumner County. And then if you think about 109, when we bring 386 to 109, you'll have 2 intersecting corridors, because the future of the net corridor is phase 3, 4, and 5. And what that does is that takes you up on 109 north, and then you'll cut back east to be determined where that new road would be, and that would take you to 31E, right above the Gallatin city limits, and then widen that from through Sideview, Bethpage, on into Westmoreland. So I believe I'll be alive when phase 1 and 2 will be done. I believe my grandchildren will be alive when phase 3, 4, and 5 is done. But it's designed as a 25-year project, and it's in a program that's called the 2045 program. So it's on track. Speaking of that, there's the 2045 Regional Transportation Plan. You also have a TDOT 3-year improvement plan. In those plans, Sumner County and the cities combined, we have 88 projects worth $2.5 billion, and that in essence is a $10 billion program. So we've done quite well. Matter of fact, they at a meeting recently, they showed a chart, and of course you had Davidson County, and it had the highest amount. Then you've got your Williamson, Rutherford, Wilson, Sumner, Murray now, and they did it by vehicles, miles traveled, and population, and our bar chart was way higher than any of the other counties other than Davidson, and we just chuckled, and we don't show that chart anymore. We're good. We kind of asked them, you don't need to really show that chart to others. So let's talk about workforce development. I've taken to saying that when everything is workforce development, then nothing is workforce development. So we've tried our best to boil that down. What does that mean? These are some definitions that we use. It's the ability for one to use their skills and training to produce work. We believe that all the workers are essential, and a job is the best economic development tool. It allows us to build wealth, to provide and care for others. Talent development is the buzzword now for workforce development. Helps the person find the pathway to work. And then I personally believe the work ethic is inherent in the human condition and builds healthy communities. These are designed for show my bona fides to the school board. Last week I was asked to look at your district improvement plan. Is it Yon, Dr. Yon? Is that how you pronounce his name? He had some nice things to say about Chase and some not so nice.
That's more than usual.
And then David Marshall, and then basically what I did on the review team as a community partner, I reviewed the narratives section. So I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And then I've chaired the Career and Technical Education Advisory Committee that we created back in 2015, Dr. Phillips, I think. It was Dr. Phillips, it was Dr. Jennifer Brown, and now it's Scott Langford and Chase Moore. It's been exciting to be part of that work. I now say I co-chair. I'm smart enough to make sure that Scott and Chase are there so they do most of the work. But it's been a group. It's been a really good, valuable group. Out of that advisory committee, just a few things that have come out of it is that on that council, what we do is we populate it with a high school representative from each of the 8 high schools, and then what we say on the private sector, the target clusters. So think information technology, advanced manufacturing. We're going to criminal justice, and in our case, we've got fire on there right now, finance. Now, I have here that you have 25 certified, CTE certified pathways, which through the Department of Education, which are the most in the state. But on the way here, I was texted that that number is actually now 30, but you still have the most in the state. Chase, what did you say that who's number 2 now?
There's a 26 and a 23.
Okay. Did anybody make a sizable jump, like from you were worried about Davidson County? Did they?
They had a bunch, but they didn't have very many before this year, so they're only.
So, what about the 26? Did they come up from like 10 or something?
No, the ones like us who had a bunch before this year didn't really have many to add, so it's about the same distance we had last year as well, at 4 or 5
Okay.
extra.
No pressure, but I have to lead the state every year.
Right.
Chase has done yeoman's work in this regard. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about in a minute how we can use these pathways as a guidepost to where we want to be, particularly under work-based learning. Also, with this committee, we've done the 8th grade career fair. Volunteer State hosts that for us. You all are now into something called the Youth Science Aptitude Test. I've got 7th grade on here, but I think you do it at sophomore year too.
Right. Yeah.
7th is right. Okay. I look forward to those results. It's relatively new, but I think we're going to see some good information out of there. And then the CTE Celebration Day, which I think, Dr. Phillips, that was particularly one of Jennifer's focus, that she just wanted to shine the light on CTE, and so we've been doing that Celebration Day for a while. And it's coming up on the 23rd. Obviously, we weren't able to have it in the last couple of years, so that'll be a good day for us. So let's talk a little bit about the environment that we live in. Labor force is changing, no surprise. Labor participation rate, we're at about 62%. There's really not enough research to know what that means, other than it's low right now, meaning that our historical high would have been about 67, 68%. So when you start talking about a labor force of 100,000 and you start adding up those percentage points, it becomes pretty real after a while. But as far as this public health crisis, the global pandemic that we hope that we are getting to the point where it's manageable, specifically for this, for you all. I mean, there's no one it's been a harder test for than a school board. So some people call this, what we're living right now, the Great Resignation, the Great Renegotiation, the Great Configuration, the Great Revitalization. And so the question is the social contract between workers and employees taking a new shape? Don't know. I would say that if you're an office worker and that you've been working from home successively for a couple years, and now somebody says that you have to go back and be there at the same time as everybody else on the same days, and particularly on Friday afternoon from 2 to 5, I don't know. I don't know if that continues that way. What we do know is the labor force is smaller than what it was before COVID. We do know the firms are trying to hire workers. Unfilled jobs remain extremely high. The prime age, 24 to 59, participation is pretty close to normal. I've highlighted this other one, aging of the population. Baby boomers accounts for more than half of the participation gap. When you think about it, the youngest baby boomer is 58, the oldest is 75. We've been talking about, I resemble those people. We've been talking about my workforce could retire, half of my workforce could retire, anytime because it was age 55 and they had their 30 years in. What this did, it just accelerated. The baby boomers threatened never to go home. I also resemble that. But when the pandemic came, they rethought that and just like life choices. Maybe it's time for me to go home because we're you're talking 65, 66, 67, 68. So that's what's really been dropping off. And by the way, baby boomers is still the largest cohort. And then a decline in immigration is also adding to our labor supply challenges. I will tell you that these data points came from a Federal Reserve official in the Nashville branch, Federal Reserve Bank out of Atlanta, but she's in the Nashville branch. She's got all the charts to support this, but she didn't want to share the charts. I mean, I can share it with you as long as you didn't go public with them, because they weren't Federal Reserve Bank documents. They were her documents, using that research. But she's very good and was able to explain it quite well. Lower skilled workers are getting better. Opportunities in a strong, they're getting better opportunities, in a strong labor market, driving up to quit rates. Well, that's the business you're in. You're educating kids to higher investability, which gives them more opportunities, and so the entry level, they're being able to jump ahead of that. One thing I do want to mention is education and training is the cornerstone of economic development. That's where it starts. To me, college is college. You've got 2 middle college high schools. We've got the technical colleges, what we call the TCAS, Tennessee College of Applied Technology. There's one in Portland. Mr. Gregory was mostly responsible for getting that school placed in Portland. In one of your buildings, Dr. Phillips was great about this. It was a partnership between school board, administration, City of Portland, Sumner County, and of course the Tennessee Board of Regents, who delivers the college. Y'all had the foresight to put in a middle college in there, and Mr. Gregory makes sure that it works. Is that fair to say, Glenn?
Well, you did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
But I didn't do nearly as much as a lot of other people.
Well, it's been a good partnership, but the idea that you all have an incredible maintenance department that's been able to do all that work. Dr. Phillips, took on that task, and it's been a good partnership, and it's been a success. It wasn't an overnight success, but it's a very important part of the fabric of the community. Community college, volunteer state, universities in Hendersonville, they're both union. Welch isn't technically a university or college, but it's a 4-year school. Certifications are college level training. what I like to say is college is for everyone, just pick your option. Respectfully, I would ask you to say there are college options for everyone. We just have to get away from college isn't for everybody. The future of work will require college level training, certifications. The certifications that you offer in your high schools are college level training. Dual enrollment is college level training. Dual credit is college level training. So as we change the narrative, college is for everyone, just pick your option. One option is to choose not to go to college. So what we did recently, we created a workforce cabinet. So on the member side, you see a list of names where it starts off with the director of Sumner County Schools, Dr. Phillips, president of Volunteer State Community College, Dr. Orenthia Montague, the new president of Tennessee College of Applied Technology, Nashville. That's they manage the TCAP Portland. Nathan Garrett, matter of fact, he lives in White House. We've included the Workforce Board, which is a 13-county area. The chairman happens to be in Hendersonville, John Zobel. Workforce Essentials owns the building and office in American Job Center. Their executive director is outstanding, Marla Rai. And then we included Anthony Hope. And then the private sector, we've got Meta and Gap working with us right now. And then you see on the other side are the real workers. So that's where you get into, they're the leaders and they're the visionaries, and that's very important. But then you get to Chase Moore with us tonight, who's, by the way, is the best CTE director in the state of Tennessee, bar none. The vice president for economic community development for the college, you see, and then the different TCATs. So this is, we've done this, we did this quickly. We did it in the last 3 months, 4 months. What our role is, we're going to be the connector, the community navigator. This is all about the alignment of education pathways that leverage existing workforce development programs, resources, and practice. We just want to do a systematic approach. We don't want to, matter of fact, we want to point out the duplication. We want to leverage what we're already doing. So what we're going to start with is a pilot program. The pilot program is using your certified pathways, now 30. And we want to build out a paid work experience attached to that pathway. Our pilot areas are the health science, information technology, criminal justice, but also we have advanced manufacturing, construction, and film, tape, and entertainment. The one on the bottom, film, tape, and entertainment, we have an opportunity with the Music City Studios, starting from scratch, and to put your students there right now. I mean, as Monolith Studios, who's their first tenant, who's currently housed on Dickerson Road, when they come in there, they do virtual production. So when you think about a car going down the road, you know, whether they were filming from inside the car, whether they were filming from outside the car, what they do now is they stick a car in that studio and then they build this digital world around it. It's pretty amazing, and also very much the future. But we have an opportunity to put your students in that space as we speak, both for academic credit and for a paid work experience. Chase and I were able to tour the facility just a couple weeks ago. So what we're trying to do is blur the lines between grades 11 and 14. So you all doing that. You all have your K-12. Technical colleges has their 3 semesters. Volunteer State has their 2 years. Our population, when you add all that up, is your 4,000 juniors and seniors, the 2,100 Sumner County residents that go to Volunteer State, go to both Volunteer State and the technical colleges. But there's also the Workforce Board world. There's also a disconnected youth, 16 to 24, which is, in fact, I didn't put that in there, but that's 2,400. I missed that number. and they're not in school or in the labor force. And also you have your adult learners seeking a pathway to employment and new career opportunities. So one thing, a programmatic initiative I'll mention is that we're going to develop a technology tool, a software solution, a multi-channel social marketing providing pathway information. Some would call it the gamification of useful information. This is how kids learn, like it or not. Generation Z, y'all know this way better than I do, but they're the first kids that literally, these things are 2007, 2008, the first smartphone. That's how young they are. So Generation Z, which I think the oldest one is 22 or something now, they're the first ones that really had this their whole life. That's not going to change. The computers in our pockets. So the idea is, where is it that we can share that information that everyone can use, and then how do we share it? What does it look like? I mean, it's students and parents, parents specifically, different audiences, teachers, counselors, employers, employees. Don't know if we can make the magic happen. There may be 4 or 5 different type applications, but that's one of our goals, to do that, to make it usable. We still have I guess, I don't even think we print a CTE user guide anymore, do we? Oh, that's what you got tonight, excuse me. we do. But it's also online. And so that'll be a big initiative. That'll be a big part of what we're doing here in the immediate future. Again, workforce is job number 1 when considering economic development. It's a long-lasting issue. We were down 9 million jobs before we lost 9 million jobs at COVID. We're back about, of the 9 million we lost in COVID, we're back about 5 million. So we're about 4 million down for that, but there's still 9 million that were open anyway. Again, I think the best pathway to create wealth is a job. Education and career helps. The best pathway to happiness is care for others. The vocation, job, career, and education all help. We'd like to talk about ourselves and say collaboration, requires trust, and for its owners where words and actions align. Thank you for your public service. You do it better than anybody in the state. You do it in an award-winning fashion. We in Sumner County are blessed to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. Are there going to be some questions? Anything you want to ask? Ms.
I would love
Edwards?
to. One, I just want to say thank you for coming tonight. I got a tail end of your presentation to the county commission, I guess a couple months ago, and messaged Dr. Phillips, and I'm like, we need to hear this.
Mhm.
Because I was getting excited about it, and I just feel like it's great information for our parents to have, and definitely something within our county. I think it's another opportunity, as you discussed, about how, not in the so distant past, our county governments and city governments did not work well together, and that has drastically changed, and we've, become better at working together and finding solutions, and it not just being this particular department or that particular department. We're looking at the overall good for the county and how do we work together, and I think, even you talking about the roads and so forth, is huge for us to see, there is more of the county than just our schools and whatnot. My biggest question is, do you have a time frame on when this is going to be available, hopefully, to our students and families? Is there kind of a...
We're working with the county right now. We will be a sub-recipient of some of the coronavirus money. We were able to get through Scott's leadership. There was a name on that workforce cabinet I should have pointed out. Chris Taylor has been the head of the budget committee for the Sumner County Commission for many years, and he was very much a champion of this workforce cabinet program that we're doing. So as a sub-recipient, we'll get the money, but we're still working on that agreement right now. To your question, to get this software solution, we're thinking 12 to 15 months probably. As far as getting someone on board, we're gonna hire a work-based learning coordinator to help us blur these lines. Somebody said at one of the workforce cabinet meetings the other day that they kind of figured it out. They went, so you're basically just gonna take all the work that we're already doing and just put a umbrella over it and take credit for it. And I went, you got it. That's it. But in fact, we're also gonna look at gap analysis. I mean, what is it that we're not doing? And then what is it we're not doing well? And I mentioned about duplication, and that's where the vision of the leadership comes in. Because if you have Dr. Phillips, which he's always worked great with volunteer state, he's also worked great with TCATs, as we've already talked about. But if you have those leaders in the room that are saying we're gonna do this, then it makes the job of actually getting it done. It makes the job of the workers to get it done easier. So program money has to be spent in 5 years because it's Corona's money, so it has to be gone by 2026. It doesn't say you have to spend it in equal allotments. The trick for Forward Summer will be it's one-time money. So the great things we're going to do with it will need to be backfilled, with funds. So we'll be working on that. But I think you'll see it go faster than slower in this case because we've got a lot of motivation.
Yeah, that's exciting, especially right now. We are in the registration phase for classes and so forth for next year. And I tell people all the time, I geek out over it. I love schedules. I love high school schedules. And so one of the things, I ask people all the time, like, what do you want to do after school? When you get out of high school, what do you want to do? And some people know, but I start looking, I'm like, hey, when we do this, like, let's go ahead and build out to 4 years, just so everybody knows. And, if this is your goal, it's like you got to work backwards. And I feel like once they kind of get to their senior year, they see in their course catalog that I can do work-based learning. And sometimes I feel like there have been people that have like filled the, students that have filled those in, but maybe not as intentional in what they want to do after school. It's like, yeah, I'm going to do this, where if we have a program like this that we're coordinating with people and go, oh, you love, the music industry or entertainment industry, we have this company and here's some opportunities, let's plug you into here instead of this other company that you're just doing because it's open. And building, because everybody knows in life, it just is, there is a concept as far as what you know, but it's also who you know. And so for us to make those connections for our students early on will be huge. I also have an 8th grader, and one of the things that speaking to teachers and parents, a consequence or repercussion of the pandemic that I myself am just seeing, and I feel like we are going to start seeing it more, specifically with this group of 8th graders that are going into their freshman year, is because of the pandemic, when it hit, it was March of their 6th grade year. They didn't have a normal 7th grade year. Now they've gotten their 8th grade, and from what I'm hearing and seeing, is that like there were skills and different things that they should have mastered, and now they're going into to be freshmen, and they haven't had a true middle school experience to kind of gap that between elementary. And so I'm seeing a lot of like, hey, what do you want to do? And they're like, I don't know. And just, it's like senioritis in 8th graders. And in some ways it's a little scary because there's not motivation there. And that's, we look at home prices going up, gas prices going up, and I think of my own children that are not that far off from being adults and going, how are they going to support themselves? This right here, we give them a firm foundation in education, and then we connect them with jobs and good paying jobs, and we continue to work this partnership, then we're setting our kids up for success in the future. So I want to say thank you to Forward Sumner and the work that y'all are doing and partnering with us, because we really are looking at not just the future of land Sumner County, we're looking at people Sumner County in the future and what does that look like for them. So thank you for that, and thanks for coming tonight to present.
You make a really good point. This program we've really focused on blurring the lines between 11 and 14, because personally I'm all about the work paid work experience, because a big part of our role will be to source those businesses for the paid work experience. And we have to have the honest conversation with them, are you going to do it or not? Because they offer a lot of excuses why not to do it. So we'll help drive that. But you make a point that this also needs to start in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And Chase, and I have to mention, I keep calling his name, but Becky Roy and Melissa Barnett, there's other people that, you know, get credit too. But, so the continuum, the career awareness, that has to start early. I just kind of jumped it. We've done a lot of the awareness things. We've done the job shadowing. I just want to accelerate that now to the paid work experience, and then tie that together with the next step, you know, the technical college or the volunteer state. 4-year universities, 4-year schools are great. You know, they're not the only option.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Duncan, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Got Mayor on the brain.
That's right.
First of all, I'd like to thank you because you brought a point out that has been brought up recently. This board has been challenged and criticized for speaking with one voice as it being a weakness. And I'd like to just make that public statement that I have seen the effects of what you described of speaking with one voice as a county. Now, that doesn't mean we always agreed as mayors in our communities. I promise you that. But when I was mayor of Gillisville, I had the opportunity to see that power at the MPO. When we had a united front and a common voice, we were able to get what we asked for from the MPO and the TIPS and bring that money back to Sumner County for something that would be successful. I've had the opportunity here recently to talk to a lot of families, and this is a big deal. And I love the way, the thought process to pick a college. I've never thought of it that way. This is college level. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that we're giving our students the advantage that it's not happening in a lot of other counties. I've had people outside of our areas that I run into when I travel. I start talking about these programs, and they said, we want to move there because of this alone.
Sure.
So this is just one component in what makes our county wonderful. But please, regardless of what happens in our county commission or our school board, let's continue to fight to speak with one voice, because we have seen right tonight the advantage of what it brings to this county and to our students. So thank you again for bringing this forward. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. Yes, Mr. Gregory, do you have a question?
One quick question. When you get something, you know, you always want more. When will the bypass start?
Right-of-way acquisition is this summer, so, you know, got slowed down, archaeological issue, it's now cleared that, so shouldn't be hard, everybody knows it's coming, should be about a year, 16, 18 months maximum. Construction starts in 18 months, 2 years maximum. And then the construction itself will take a couple of years. But again, it's cash flow. North is scheduled to go first, northern segment. They will not let a contract for 10 miles, 150 million.
Now, I understand I don't count them, but I've been told there's 150 to 175 18-wheelers that go through Portland every day.
Wow.
And more now because of the recent construction.
Yeah.
More now. Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you for that.
You do a good job.
Thank you. You do a good job.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you have anything else you wanted?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, excuse me.
Oh,
There
thank
you
Mr.
are. Tim does that to me all the
Chairman.
time, right
That's
there at your
okay.
shoulder.
That's all right. I'm still
Ms.
right
Bachman.
there. Thank you, Ms. Chairman. I don't have a whole lot more to add other than I am a big believer in CTE. Absolutely. I grew up back in the dark ages, and we had some of this in my high school in the inner city in Indianapolis many years ago, and I saw the effect that it had back then. We kind of drifted away from that over the years, and I am so thankful that we're back to this again. So thank you for that, and thank you for your presentation and for all the work that your group has done. We appreciate it very much.
Yes.
Jimmy, thanks.
Director.
You know, I think at our level, we talk a lot, and we hear things, we're in meetings, and we kind of see how all of the different dots connect. You know, but sometimes it's good to kind of lay it all out there and understand how CTE and what Chase and his team and our teachers are doing to get the workforce prepared, but also there's a component that's infrastructure and things that you would never really think about if you live in our world unless you're exposed to that. So all of that information helps us kind of stay focused that we need to do the best we can on our part to make sure students have an opportunity, and all the things that are in this booklet and what we're doing with the 30 pathways to make sure that we can fill our responsibility so students have an opportunity to do what they love, make a living, live in Sumner County, raise their family in Sumner County, make businesses prosperous, and continue to make our community a great long term. It's about sustainability, you know that. So I just appreciate you. You're always there to be a big fan of the school district, and we always appreciate that. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Dale. And if I did mention it, you all did a really good job in your administration hires. I mean, Dale Phillips is as good as they come. He's been a great community partner. Scott Langford does an incredible job. I'm on the United Way board with Katie. And we've talked enough about Chase at this point. So, but don't take that for granted. I mean, board member Duncan, I had not thought about that being criticized for unified voice. That's interesting and disappointing.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. We are blessed in this county to have the leadership of Forward Sumner. I know there are many, many people to thank for that. I saw Dr. Jennifer Brown's name listed, and it made me think of a quote that's just been dear to my heart. Nelson Henderson said, "The true meaning of life is to plant trees whose shade you do not expect to sit." So you all are investors in this community, and it needed, you have to cast a vision, work your plan, and we're blessed because the plan's working. Chase, how many students right now are enrolled in CTE programming? Thank you, Mr. Johnston.
I would say in our high schools, if there's 8,000 students, I'd say that 90% roughly take CTE courses, because scheduling that we're on, that with the block scheduling, they have the flexibility to have elective classes, and so a majority of them are taking some sort. Through their 4 years, I bet they all take something, but every year they might not have something.
90%.
That's a random guess, but I bet that's pretty.
I'd say, well, you do the data all the time, so you're probably very close to being spot on. That's amazing. Amazing. Thank you. We appreciate you, Chase. I believe, unless there's any other questions, we have one policy.
Any questions about the policy?
Just a second appearance of the tobacco policy.
Tobacco policy.
And then we will vote.
Student check.
Okay. Any dates that we need to know of?
So because of spring break, the next board meeting is actually on March 22nd.
Okay.
So
Spring break affects that. And remind us of the special ed day. The relay, Olympics.
May 6th.
6, okay. I just want to make sure we all, May 6th. And there is a rain day, but we'll get to May 6th. But thank you. Well, if that's all we have for the study session this evening, thank you for the contributions. Our meeting is adjourned.